Oi! Yes! What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. We've only had, prior to this, one out of the last 3 weeks of UFC action. Going forward, we're going to have 6 straight weeks of UFC action starting this week with UFC Vegas 62. That's going to be headlined by Alexa Grasso versus Viviane Araujo. Very interesting main event here in the women's flyweight division. Neither one of these ladies has ever been scheduled for 5 at the UFC level, so it's going to be interesting to see how that one shakes out. We've got a lot of really fun fights on this card, but from a gambling perspective, this is a lot of slim pickings here. I have the feeling that I'm going to be keeping it light this week. There's a lot of untested fighters here. There's some more older fighters. New weight classes, prospects, and then a lot of lines where when the obvious outcome is kind of there, it's juice to the tits. So I don't know what we're going to find here, but we got to go through all 12 of these fights. I've got some notes for you from the tape study. We've got all the stats for you. If you want access to the stats for this event, they are linked for free in the description of this video. But if you want to get them early so that you can beat some of this line movement, check out what's on that ticker right there, the Patreon for Uncle Weezy. Go check that out. $5 a month to get access to the stats that I give out every week here on Just the Tip. But we get them about a week before where you would be getting them if you just waited to get them in the link to the description of this video. And also for $20 a month, the advanced tier, I'm giving you that prop template, which has the analytics for 3 and 5 round fights in every weight class since January 1st, 2013. So we're going back 10 years, and we have exact analytics as to how many fights finished, how many went under 2.5, how many started round 2 for 3 and 5 round fights separated by division. And then what we do is we feed those analytics into the template so that you can get an idea of what lines are fairly priced, which ones aren't, and where you're getting a little bit of a discount when you see a fight playing out a certain way. So check out the Patreon if you haven't already. And if you just want to support me without giving me any money at all, hit the like button on the video, hit the subscribe button. Go check out the MMA Engine YouTube channel where we do probability every week on Monday. And you can check out the other content that our guys Brady, Lou, and Monk do there as well. But we've got 12 fights to break down on this card next week. Oh boy, we got UFC 280 coming up, and it is a monster card from top to bottom where we've got an amazing lineup of fights, great matchmaking, amazing talent, 2 championships, I think, up for grabs on this one. It is going to be a hell of a night, and I can't wait to watch those fights, but even though they're going to be early here in the States, it will be at nighttime over there for you guys in Europe and Abu Dhabi and wherever else you might be watching this fight from. So greetings to everybody that's watching right now. Let's see what's going on here in the chat. I know that my guy all the way from Holland, Bob Spikermans, was here, the very first one in the room, saying Beverly Hills Ninja Fight Week. Let's do this. Thank you, Uncle Weezy. Also, shout out to Badr Hari for never letting us gamblers down when it comes to stacking those juicy dog tickets like flapjacks. My guy Bob, I appreciate you for hanging out with us bright and early right now in the Netherlands. We got Mushroom saying, "Oi, yes." What's up, Uncle Weezy? 4 more sleeps and 5 more lunches to go until violence. Let's get it, my man. It's always good to see you in here. The best MMA lunch pictures Twitter game that there is going right now, my guy Mushroom Philly. We got Daz Files saying, "Oi, finally going to be a fun card with plenty of Twitter moaning afterwards. I hope is going doggies." Yeah, I mean, I think there will be, because, you know, there's people right now that are laying minus 800 on Pete Rodriguez, a guy with a 7.5-minute career, you know, in the UFC. Or no, I mean, pro career. 7.5-minute pro career. Very, very interesting week of fights, you guys. And, I will be able to find some spots, but as of right now, I only have one tracked bet, and I don't even love that bet, but we'll get into that all here. We got my guy Victor De Jesus checking in from Michigan saying, "Oh, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? Let's shave these bookies. Let's do exactly that." My guy JSJ23 saying, "Back at it with 6 straight weeks, but this is a dangerous card to load up on." I couldn't agree more with you, Jazz. I have 1 unit right now tracked on this, and if I went above 5 for this card, I would be shocked. I might not even go above 3. We're going to just have to see here. But, we're going to talk through this together, see if we can find some spots that we all kind of agree would be worth betting on. But, I'm absolutely happy to keep my powder dry for next week. I've already got a max bet on next week's card. And there's other spots that I'm definitely going to be taking a very long, very hard look at for next week. But as of right now, we got to find the spots on this card. We got M.A. Laren in here saying, "Oi, video light, coffee ready, pen and paper ready, check, flapjacks incoming. Thank you, Unc. I appreciate you, M.A. Laren. Thanks for checking in, man." We got Grateful Dude saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Grateful Dude?" I believe Grateful Dude was the very first member of my Patreon, and I'd like to thank you for that, Grateful Dude. Good to see you here hanging out with us. We got Rob Lawrence say, "Hey, y'all, oi, can't stay. Got to get up stupid early to slung trees all day." Have a great show, Rob. I appreciate you always coming in here, hanging out, even if it's just to check in. Hopefully you can watch it tomorrow after work. I appreciate you coming through here. We got the Couch Warrior podcast in the room saying, "Let's go. What's good, boys? What's good is I'm going to be on the Couch Warriors show next Wednesday, late night, for a little show that we're doing with Liam Picks Fights, with Addicted to Combat, and with Couch Warrior. We're going to be going over UFC 280, an amazing card from top to bottom. And I'm going to be waiting for one other person that I'm going to be doing their show. I'm going to wait for them to drop it on Twitter to let you know that I'm going to also be a guest spot someplace else this week that you'll probably see me as well. So can't wait to start talking about UFC 280, but we got to get through this one first, you guys. Jared Curry in the room saying, "Hey, y'all, first time catching this stream. I appreciate you hanging out live, Jared. Hopefully we'll have fun today and find some good spots together." We got Papa Chuck saying, "That mushroom, quick question. With those lunches, does your boss approve of your 1-hour bathroom breaks? I feel bad for the janitor." Dude, this guy, Mushroom, just has these lunches that are epic, like 1,700 to 2,500 calories, banana milkshakes, grilled and buttered blueberry muffins, mushroom Philly cheesesteaks, Andy Capp's hot fries. This dude is absolutely living it up. Really kind of putting everybody else to shame when it comes to his lunches. Mushroom has a cheesesteak for lunch before I even wake up, says Couch Warrior. We got Jerry Curry saying, "I followed Mushroom on Twitter recently, and seeing what his lunch is has quickly ingrained itself in my daily routine." Man, it is the best. Yes. It's legendary is right, man. And we got the wise little goat too. "Do I shave balls too or just ass? I'm going to start shaving balls when I get an official sponsorship from Manscaped, when I want them to be definitely sponsoring Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I mean, it's like a plug and an outlet. It just fits absolutely perfectly. So we're going to get that going, hopefully at some point soon." Mushroom saying, "At Rob Lawrence, what's up, Rob?" We got Travis M saying, "What's up, Uncle Weezy? It's been a minute. Underrated card from a fan perspective. I could not agree more. From a gambling perspective, I don't like it, but from a fan perspective, Jackson Rodriguez will be a fun fight. Taira Vergara is a very fun fight. I can't wait to see Sam Hughes get back in there, and Piera La Fiera is a very exciting fighter. The grappler's delight we have between Maximov and Malkoun. The main event's great. Cub Swanson dropping down to 135 to fight the Dragon. There's some great fights on this card. I'm really looking forward to watching it. And then let's see. We got Hagbard Celine in the room saying, "Weezy, stat stud, You legend. I appreciate you, Hagbar. Thank you for hanging out in here. And we've got Alex Ramirez, the general, in the room saying we're back. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for hanging out. We got Mushroom saying what's up to Victor de Jesus. We got Justin Villegas saying Mike Jackson fight week. I feel Mike holds cage. Keep getting worn, and Mike gets too many nutshot penalties on both sides. And the amazing Mike gets a draw with his not a loss. So, yeah, I mean, a draw in that one would be something that would absolutely piss off just about everybody that's betting this under 1.5 and the fight doesn't go to decision, which is absolutely juice to the tits in that fight. If it wound up going to a draw, Twitter would be just aflame with people that would be really pissed off. Jazz saying, any other betting breakdown channels that I recommend? My favorite show every week to watch, and I always hate doing this because whenever I do this, other people will be like, oh, man, I see how it goes, dude. But I love what Santino DeFranco and Brandon Olivas are doing on YouTube. They got a show called UFC Breakdowns and Bets. They usually go for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, breaking down every fight on the card. They'll probably have theirs out tomorrow. They usually have that one out. That's my favorite one to watch that isn't along with all the regulars that I watch every single week. My guy Brady, my guy Clint, my guy Locke, my guy Dan at Best Fight Picks. And then my other guys, Addicted to Combat, Couch Warrior, everybody on the MMA Engine that does great work over there. Who else? Martian and Ozzy. I like to watch them. Dude, and then I'm gonna leave out a bunch of other people that I watch. Bleed. I like Bleed. He's hilarious, dude. Bleed's hilarious. So those are the ones, but the one that I honestly look forward to the most. Oh, and then Dog or Pass, obviously, with Cody Safdie and Paul Shaughnessy. I mean, it's just an absolute staple. And and like there's others as well. I mean, I'm watching a lot of them, but Dog or Pass probably. And then also, like I say, Brandon and Santino do amazing work. Jared Curry saying, I agree. The Mike Jackson fight has the potential to be generationally yam-baggy. It definitely does. I could see sack shots. And not only that, it's an orthodox versus switch stance fighter. So maybe Rodriguez throws kicks from the southpaw stance, and that winds up getting another nut shot. I don't know, but it's definitely low level enough that we could see that. We could see those cup shots happening a little more often than when we see. And Wiz says Couch Warrior podcast. Yes, that's right. That's right, Wiz. And I like Wiz's channel as well, but I'm going to be on with Wiz and Addicted to Combat. Yeah, so this is going to be a great show. And then of course, my guy, the general, was saying, oh, what's up, dude? And my guy, Mr. Finland, General Portilla in the room saying, Weezy, let's get through this week and try to win some money doing it. That's the goal. And just be up a little bit, not too greedy, just a little bit this week. Ease into next week and make some serious money. And Wiz, gonna be a banger. Hell yeah, man. Grasso round 4, says Mushroom. I like that look. Go Flamingo saying, what's up, Weezy? We're going to get a double serve of the old Flappy J's this week. I don't know about a double serve. Let's do a single serving. And then next week, I'm going to be hungry, man. UFC 280. Going to be some big bets on the table. Maybe 20 units down. Maybe I'll have 10% of that down this week. But let's get it, man. Let's stack them anyway. And then Mushroom saying, Swanson KO, Askarov decision. Mana KO. Thoughts? Swanson's live for a knockout against anybody that he steps in there with because he swings for the fences and he's got a lot of power and he's coming down a weight class, So I don't know if Martinez has felt somebody that hits like Cub Swanson, but still, I like that. Askarov decision, I like a lot. Mana KO. Mana KO. See, the Brandon Davis had never been knocked out prior to the fight with Bakary. And he's been bouncing back and forth between 135 and 145. But, I mean, this guy didn't even get knocked out by Giga Chikadze, for Christ's sake. So are we going to go out there and say that we're just expecting Mana Martinez, who couldn't knock out – I mean, Mana Martinez hasn't knocked anybody out at the UFC level yet. He didn't knock out Ronnie Lawrence. He didn't knock out Guido Canetti. And he didn't knock out Draco Rodriguez when you had the DWCS chance. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd trust him. I don't know if that knockout was a fluke. maybe Brandon Davis will get the weight cut so that he's more durable this time, but I don't know, man. I don't know about Mana KO. It's going to be his first one, I believe, at the UFC level. Obviously, he was knocking fools out every single time on the regional scene. Great choice of podcast. No shortage of quality content out there. There really isn't. That's why I appreciate you guys coming here and hanging out with me, because you could be watching anybody. Let's see. We got Brady Stevens in the room saying, what do you think of betting both Makhachev by decision and Oliveira by knockout? I see that each guy is path to victory. I don't really see either guy getting subbed. Yeah, neither do I. I mean, that's an interesting way to look at it. And maybe split it so that you get, no matter which outcome happens, you get half and half, like you get the same amount no matter what that comes. And you can just do a little mathematical formula where if it's a 1 unit bet, you could take an X and a 1 minus X and put it in front of the plus 400 and the plus 500, set it equal to each other, and then figure out how much you put on each. But that's a decent way to look at it there, Brady. Jay saying Swanson is a beast. I think he could sleep him. He's not that tall, so weight cuts should be fine. Yeah, they're the same height, and they have the same reach. How did you score Allen versus Malkoun and Vergara versus Rodriguez? Disagreed with both personally. Okay, so I had Allen as my ass shaving of the week against and this hurt. It was against Malkoun, and I thought Malkoun actually did win that fight, but I thought it was very close, and I thought it could have been called either way. And then Vergara versus Rodriguez, I had scored originally for Rodriguez, and I was furious about it because I had Rodriguez as the second leg of a parlay that week, and wound up, obviously having to tear up that ticket. But when I went back and I watched it, man, that fight could have went either way, but I had Clayton winning the first and the third round, and I had CJ winning that second round in dominant fashion, actually. Great fight. CJ really impressed me in that fight, and that's why I've got a bet on him this week. But it's, I disagreed with both originally, and now I see the Vergara a little bit more. But I still kind of think Rodriguez won that fight, and I still think that Malkoun probably won the fight, but I'm glad Allen won. All right. Go Flamingo saying I got Henry, Maximov, Wright, Swanson, parlay money lines plus 1,700. I don't hate that at all because I love Victor Henry this week. Jordan Wright is live just because Dusko doesn't have the best striking defense. He relies on his head movement, and Jordan Wright is a great hammer. Bad nail, but a great hammer. And then Swanson I like too, but I'm waiting to see Swanson on the scale. And then ring a ding ding, you guys. This is absolutely huge. K Burton D with a $50 donation. My God, keeping the lights on here in Uncle Weezy's studio, saying, keep it up, Weezy. Your insight has helped me a lot this year. Ring a ding ding for the $50 incredibly generous donation. Kate Burton, I thank you so much for helping out the channel over here, keeping the lights on here. That'll be half of my YouTube revenue this month if I'm lucky. Thank you so much for that donation. And I'm going to keep coming at you guys with the free stats every week here. Or if you join the Patreon, it's $5 a month. And trying to give you guys the insight that it takes in order to be a long-term winner betting on the UFC. And we got Pink Floyd in the room saying Bodog right now has Wright. And give me a third leg to replace Mana KO. How about Victor Henry by decision? Maybe he finishes. Oh, God. Piera Rodriguez by decision. That's what I'm going to tell you to do. I appreciate that. That it's hard though. I mean, Mana. We'll talk about the Mana. We'll talk about the Mana fight mushroom. You don't have to change it yet. Let's go through it and if I change your mind, then change the bet. But let's talk about that fight first. And we got Bananas and Grapes in the room saying, hey, Weezy, hey, Mushroom, what's up, dude? Good to see you in here. Bodog has right to win by any knockout, submission, or DQ at plus 550. What? And wins inside the distance is plus 215 if you want to bet them. So I appreciate that, dude. If any of you guys have got a Bodog account in Canada, jump on Jordan Wright inside the distance. He's never won a fight by decision in his career, and even the inside the distance prop is plus 210. So that's an amazing line there. That is a huge mistake. You got to jump on that. Bananas and Grapes saying, what's up, Bananas? What's up, dude? And then we got Lou Betya, my guy in the room saying, oi, my co-host for Propability this week over on the MMA Engine, and also the host of Props to Consider and Maybe Bet on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Good to see you in here, my guy Lou. And then all the fruit and veg be in the chat. You got that right, man. With the vegetable mushroom right there saying, what's up, Lou? And then ring a ding ding. My guy Gogo Flamingo, another huge supporter of the channel, saying, I don't know who this Kate Burton fellow is, but I like his money. Also, he's right. God bless Weezy. I appreciate Kay Burton as well as I appreciate Gogo Flamingo and everybody else that's on the Patreon, everybody else that supports the channel, everybody that big ups that like button, everybody that big ups that subscribe button, everybody that big ups the like on Stat Diggers and Propability and the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Appreciate all of you guys. Tommy Under's in the room and saying Weezy. We got Jared Curry saying, so what I'm hearing is he's the man of the hour. He might be, man. And Henry, third decision. I like that. I like that, Mushroom. That's really good if you got access to that line. So, but ring a ding ding. Thank you so much, Gogo Flamingo. How many people we got hanging out in here right now? We got 30 of you guys hanging out with me. We're going to get into this card. My guy Addicted to Combat saying, I hope I'm not too late. Lighting up the stogie now. What up, Unc? Let's get it, Patrick. Let's get it, you guys. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to get into these stats. I've got some lines up on the board here, but we're going to start right now with the very first fight of the night, and that is going to be Mike Jackson against Pete Rodriguez. We've got a short order cook against a lawyer here. Alaska FC, stand up. This would not even be a main event in your organization, but here we are. We've only had 1 week of fights in the last 3, and this is what they're throwing at us to warm us up here. It's going to be a fan-friendly fight. Somebody's probably getting knocked out. That somebody is probably Mike Jackson, but here's the problem, you guys. Right now, dead game Pete Rodriguez is minus 800 on the money line. He's minus 800. I believe that's an 89% implied probability. He's got to win this fight 89 times out of 100 just for you to break even. So don't put this dude in your parlays. Please. Don't do it. His pro career is 7.5 minutes in 5 fights. His wins are over a popcorn vendor named Roberto Pixley, a cab driver named Jose Luis Rios, a ditch digger named Yasser Guzman, and a short order cook named Jorge Olea. Okay? Come on, you guys. You can't be laying this kind of money on Pete Rodriguez if you're serious about winning money long-term betting UFC. But let's just go through the stats. I wrote up this fight. I don't know why, but I wrote it up because I'm a stat guy and because I'm a content creator. In the measurables, Jackson's bigger, Rodriguez is younger, and he's got this stance with the switch stance fighting. Mike's the bigger dude. He's got a 5-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage, but Pete is 12 years younger, and he's a switch stance fighter. So, yeah, Mike Jackson, 37 years old. The experience is even because neither one of these guys has any real experience. The finish stats and durability, the advantage goes to Rodriguez because he's got a 100% finish rate in 4 wins. He has serious power in his hands from what we've seen with him fighting some very, very, very low-level opponents on the regional scene. The striking advantage goes to Rodriguez. Pete's power is the biggest thing that stands out here. Mike has decent striking. This should be a striking match. Jackson's metrics are better than Pete's at the UFC level, but the competition level is much different, as Jackson has only fought bums, and Pete made his debut against Jack Della Maddalena, who would beat all 5 of Pete Rodriguez's opponents, all 4, at the same time in one cage. You could unleash all 4 of Pete Rodriguez's guys that he beat on Jack Della Maddalena simultaneously, and Jack would sleep all of them. So, Pete has fought probably the better brand of competition here just because he's fought Jack. The grappling is even. As far as I know, neither one of these guys provides even the slightest chance to put anyone in danger with their grappling at all, including me. I don't know if either of these guys could submit me if you gave them a 15-minute match. The strength of schedule, Pete fought Jack Della, and Jack's last 2 opponents were Dean Barry and CM Punk. So Pete's 12 years younger, switch stance fighter, better finisher, way more power, superior strength of schedule, I guess. Jackson's longer and has more UFC level experience. I'm picking Pete Rodriguez to win this one by first round knockout. But even that line, let's look at what Pete Rodriguez round 1 is. If it's minus money, I'm going to puke. Minus 160. You've got to be fucking kidding me, man. Please don't bet on Pete Rodriguez. Don't lay this kind of juice on a guy who has a 7-minute professional career. I don't care if he's fighting a lawyer. I don't care if he's fighting a photographer. It doesn't matter. We don't know anything about this guy. So please, just don't. Just don't. Next fight is a fight, and it's going to be a great fight. We got a fantastic prospect in Tatsuro Taira going up against a real scrappy fighter in CJ Vergara. This is going to be a really fun one here. I'm really looking forward to see how Tatsuro handles this matchup here. I think it's just a little bit of a step up from Carlos Candelario, but not a huge step up. But it's a different type of challenge here for Tatsuro. So Tatsuro minus 240 right now. CJ Vergara plus 205. Fight doesn't go to decision at plus money and plus 130 right now. So on the notes for this one, I have got the measurables advantage going to Tatsuro Taira, and this is a considerable measurable advantage here as he's an inch taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's 9 years younger here. So he just looks like he's the bigger dude. They got Taira listed at 5'7". They got Vergara listed at 5'6". I wouldn't be surprised if Taira was more than a couple inches taller than him. And Taira's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's a big featherweight. But Vergara's used to fighting bigger, big flyweights. I mean, not featherweights. So we're going to see how much bigger Taira is when we go to that weigh-in. But right now, I do think that Taira is the much bigger dude. The experience advantage does go to Vergara here as we can scroll down a little bit. CJ's got 3 more professional fights. He's got almost 75 more minutes in the pro cage, 5.5 more years as a pro. He's got 2 more fights at the UFC level and 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. But Taira's been the busier fighter as a pro, though, with 11 fights in less than 4.5 years, while Vergara has 14 pro fights in almost a 10-year pro career. So Taira's young and he's much busier, but obviously it's Vergara who has more UFC and experience, pro experience in comparison to Tatsuro. The finish stats and durability, I'm giving the advantage to Taira here. Tatsuro has the better finish rate as a pro, 72% for Tatsuro, 60% for CJ, and he has 5 wins by submission and 2 by knockout, while all 6 of CJ's wins are by knockout. So Vergara has been finished in 1 of 3 pro losses, and it was by submission. Taira has never been finished because he's never lost. Like the durability, I have to give it to Taira, but we don't really know how he's going to respond if he winds up losing a fight. But The striking advantage, I got to go with Taira here. The UFC striking metrics favor Taira, but it's a very small sample size. And only 30% of Taira's UFC cage time was spent at striking distance. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and the power numbers are very similar thus far. Taira's 73.5% striking defense and 0.6 significant strikes absorbed per minute are about as good a defensive numbers as you can expect from anyone in any weight class. The grappling advantage definitely goes to Taira here. He's excellent on the ground. 5 career wins by submission for Tatsuro, and he showed fantastic back takes and the ability to win minutes and with control time. He hunts for submissions, and he stays active and aggressive on the ground. Vergara has showed 80% takedown defense thus far, and he's faced 15 takedown attempts in 30 minutes of UFC cage time. So a grappling-heavy game plan is something he's used to seeing from his opponents. He's shown excellent efficiency on the ground thus far, and he has not attempted any takedowns while he's faced 15 takedown attempts against. Yet he outcontrols his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio. So this isn't going to be a walk in the park for Taira to get CJ down and get him there, or for him to just get to his back. He's going to have to work hard in order to do it. And Vergara's a guy that's not going to be easy to wrestle because of the pressure. It's so much more difficult to wrestle from your heels than it is from your toes. Because in order to get, especially if you're looking for a double leg, you need power in that shot. You need to be able to blast off of those feet, off of the balls of your feet, in order to be able to get in on the hips and drive through and keep your feet moving after you get your hands locked. So CJ is a guy who constantly walks forward. And that is going to be something that we haven't seen Tatsuro deal with yet as a professional. So I'm very interested to see how Tatsuro deals with the pressure of Vergara. Vergara is very durable. He walks forward. He will eat one to give one, and he's got a lot of power in his hands. So this is going to be a different type of matchup here for Tatsuro. So when it comes to the strength of schedule, that advantage goes to Vergara. Even though the metrics are almost identical overall, it's Vergara who has more UFC level of competition on his resume in comparison to Taira. So Taira's got the measurables. He's got the finish stats advantage, the striking and grappling advantages, in my opinion, while Vergara has the experience and the strength of schedule advantages. I think Taira wins by decision, but I wouldn't lay that juice. I think CJ, if he shows good takedown defense, and if he pressures Tatsuro, and I know he's going to pressure him, he's going to have an excellent chance to pull off the upset because of that durability, because of the pace, and because he has the tendency to hurt people. And if he hurts you, he's going to win that round. Now, Tatsuro is the guy who wins rounds. He can win rounds with his striking. It's good. It's crisp. He uses his length well, and he's got power. We've seen it on the regional scene, and we even saw him get a knockdown against Candelario. But CJ, in his last fight against Cladeson's about as good of a prospect, in my opinion, as Taira is. And he made that fight hell for Cladeson because of the style in with which he fought. So I told you guys I watch a lot of Santino and Brandon on YouTube. And I saw Brandon say on YouTube or on Twitter earlier that he said, I'm sorry, guys, CJ Vergara isn't that good. And he's a lot less skilled than Tatsuro Taira is. But you can make up for a lack of skill with durability and pressure. I think when you put those two things together and the ability to either hurt someone on the feet or to be able to take them down and win minutes, when you put that third factor with the durability and with the pressure and with the pace, it actually makes it so you don't have to be a tremendously skilled mixed martial artist in order to win fights, because the pressure is enough to take your opponent out of what they do best. So very interesting fight here. I have a 1-unit underdog bet here on CJ Vergara. I think he can make this fight a lot dirtier. And when you make it dirtier, you take a technical fighter and you make him a brawler. And the technical fighter does best when they're fighting technically. The brawler does best when they're brawling. CJ's the brawler. Tatsuro's the technical fighter here. But CJ's going to have to be very careful about that pressure and not walking into something where he just winds up getting his back taken, because it's very easy to take a step to the side and just reach around. And then if he can get that body triangle in, he can get on CJ's back. Once that thing is in, you're not getting Taira off your back. So I think Tatsuro Taira probably is going to be able to win enough minutes to win this fight by decision. But, man, I don't think it's just the juice isn't worth the squeeze here at minus 250 for Taira. So I am going to go with the 1 unit bet on Vergara. I got him at plus 195. You can get him at plus 205 right now on Bet Online. But the pick is actually going to be Taira by decision. I think it's going to be a very close fight, and I'm very interested to see how Taira deals with the pressure of Vergara here. The next fight that we're going to discuss is Piera La Fiera Rodriguez at minus 160, squaring off against Sam Hughes at plus 140. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 215. I cashed on Sam Hughes against it was the Elise Reed fight, because I knew that Sam had mixed in some wrestling in her Nunez fight, and I knew that if she could do that against Reed, that she would have a really good chance to win that fight, and it was a plus 150 ticket. So thank you, Sam Hughes, for cashing that ticket for me. But a slightly different stylistic matchup here, you guys. So let's talk about it. We've got the measurables in this one is going to go to Sam Hughes, right? She's got a 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. So she's going to be the bigger lady here. Sam is less than 6 months older than Piera, so age really isn't a factor. The experience advantage also going to Sam Page. She's got 3 more professional fights. Let me scroll down a little bit here so you can see all these stats. She's got over 5 more minutes in the pro cage, so about the same amount of cage time as Piera. And she's been a pro for almost 2 more years in comparison to Piera. That means that Hughes has also been the way more active fighter. She's fought 3 times a year, while for Piera, it's less than 1.5. Sam also has the UFC experience advantage with 3 more fights and over 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. So right there off the bat, Sam Hughes is bigger, and she's also got more experience than Piera. The finish stats and the durability, I'm giving a slight edge here to Sam Hughes. We've got a finish rate edge here for Hughes, as she's finished 72% of her pro wins inside the distance, and it's 63% for Piera. And she's more of an equal opportunity finisher with 3 wins by sub and 2 by knockout, while Piera has 5 finish wins, and they're all by knockout. Piera has never been finished, as she's never lost as a pro, and Sam has been finished in 2 of 4 pro losses and in 1 of 3 UFC losses. The striking advantage I'm giving to Piera Rodriguez here. Piera has the UFC striking metrics that are a little bit better in comparison to Hughes thus far. Piera has a 0.87 significant strike differential, while for Hughes it's negative 0.96. Piera also throws slightly more volume than her opponents, while Hughes throws about 2.5 less significant strikes attempts per minute than her opponents do. Neither has recorded a knockdown thus far, and only Hughes has absorbed a knockdown and is allowing 0.23 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Piera has a way better striking defense on paper as well at 64% in comparison to 54% for Hughes. When it comes to the grappling, I've got it even. But, you know, I kind of like the even. I kind of like calling it even because it's hard to know who has the advantage. Both ladies have done a nice job of out-controlling their opponents thus far in the UFC. Both have completed 6 takedowns, and both have accrued over 30% of control time for on the aggregate. Piera has been busier attempting takedowns and has been way better at stuffing them as well. 75% takedown defense, as we can see here, for Piera, and it's 42% takedown defense for Sam Hughes, as she's allowed 7 takedowns on 12 attempts. But look at this, though. Sam Hughes is actually out-controlling her opponents 36% to 6%, while Piera, it's 31% to 14%. So I think that that's interesting. The efficiency of Hughes is excellent. To have one less takedown than your opponents, but to out-control them at a 6-to-1 ratio is very impressive. And Piera has 3 times as many takedowns as her opponents, but she's out-controlling her opponents at a little better than a 2-to-1 ratio. But here's the thing. Piera's done a good job of stuffing takedowns, and she's been the more active wrestler. We've seen Sam really work that top game in that wrestling, but against 2 opponents that cannot wrestle at all. I mean, Estela Nunez can't wrestle her way out of a paper bag, and Elise Reed is a white belt. So Sam has gotten these takedowns and won with the control time against fighters who aren't able to stop takedowns. Piera Rodriguez was able to swim with Kay Hansen on the ground, and Kay Hansen is a 10th Planet brown belt. So I believe that Piera is going to be the better grappler here. I think she's going to be the more likely one to get takedowns and to win minutes on the ground here. Sam got takedowns against Estela Nunez and Elise Reed, but I don't think she's getting them against Piera Rodriguez here, as we saw Kay really struggle to take her down and hold her down. And I think Kay's a much better, much more credentialed grappler than Sam Hughes is. Sam is really more of a Muay Thai fighter who has mixed in the wrestling against other pure Muay Thai fighters. But I think that Piera's got more power on the feet, and I like her edge here in the grappling as well. And when it comes to the strength of schedule, that goes to Hughes all day. Sam has fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition here. As we see, the ratio is 1.5 in comparison to 0.5 for Piera, and 5 total fights in comparison to 1.5 for Piera's competition. So Sam Page has the measurables advantage. She's got the experience advantage. She's got the finish stats and the strength to schedule advantages, while Piera is the more durable fighter, and she's got the striking metrics advantage. And she's probably the more likely gal to win minutes in the wrestling, in my opinion. Hughes has made some really nice improvements rounding out her game. We've seen the same from Piera, who is mostly a striker pre-UFC, and then we saw her attempt 17 takedowns in her 2 UFC-level fights in Dana White's Contender Series and in the Kay Hansen fight. I think Piera gets the edge here by landing the heavier, more powerful strikes, but I feel the money line value might be on the Hughes side here, but it's a very competitive, close fight. I'm picking Piera to win this one by decision. And, I think stylistically, this might be a spot where I put Piera in my greasy 4-legger at -160, because I think that she's kind of got Sam covered everywhere. Sam's fought the better level of competition. Sam's more experienced. She's got the slightly better finish rate. She's slightly bigger. But I think when you look at it, when you break it down stylistically as to who's the better striker, more dangerous striker, and who's more likely to win minutes in the grappling exchanges, I think Piera has the important edges there. So I'm going to pick her to win this fight by decision and potentially put her at -160 in my greasy 4-legger. The next fight is one that was added recently. It is Joanderson Brito squaring off against Lucas Alexander. So right now, I had it at Brito -335, Alexander +275. Let's refresh the best fight odds here and see what we can see. We passed it, it looks like. Okay, so Joanderson now at -360. He's -350 on FanDuel. Still no time props. Let me see if any time props came out on FightOdds.io. Try to give you the most up-to-date information, and still no time props on 5 Dimes or anything yet. So I don't have an over-under or a fight goes or fight doesn't go. But Brito's sitting around -350, -360. The comeback on Lucas Alexander as high as +295, 299 on CloudBet. Excuse me for just a second, guys. Righty, let's get back into it. So this is a fun fight. I'm a big fan of Joanderson Brito. He made a prick out of me when he fought Andre Philly because I thought Philly was a little bit better than this guy everywhere. I thought he'd be able to handle the striking exchanges against Joanderson. Picked him to shave ass against Joanderson. And yeah, that did not work out well for me. Philly slept in the first 60 seconds there, making an idiot out of me. But look, Joanderson, I knew he was going to be dangerous early in that fight. I just thought that Philly would be veteran enough to be able to handle it. He wasn't. And that's a big win for Joanderson Brito. The measurables here against Lucas Alexander I have is even. Alexander is going to be the bigger dude. So he's 3 inches taller, but it's actually Joanderson who has a 1 inch reach advantage here. Brito's 6 months older, and both are listed as orthodox fighter. But I do see Brito switch stances a lot, not as much with Alexander. The experience advantage goes to Joanderson Brito here, as he's got 8 more professional fights. He's got 2.5 more years as a pro. But Lucas actually has less than 10 more minutes in the pro cage. Obviously, Brito has the UFC experience advantage, as he's got 3 more fights and over 25 more minutes in the UFC cage, as Lucas is making his UFC debut here on 5 days' notice. Brito has the finish stats and durability edge, as he's got the better finish rate as a pro, 84% for Joanderson Brito, 43% for Lucas Alexander. And he also has 6 wins by knockout and 5 wins by submission. So he's more of an equal opportunity finisher, while Alexander only has wins by knockout as a pro. 3 knockouts and 7 wins. Neither guy has been very durable. Lucas has been finishing both of his pro losses, both of them by submission. And Joanderson has lost once by knockout, once by submission, and once by decision. The striking advantage definitely goes to Brito, in my opinion. Even though Lucas is the taller, rangier guy here with the more technical-looking striking, I mean, he actually looks really good on the feet when you watch him. It's Brito who has crazy power in both hands. He's landing a knockdown on just over 1% of the significant strikes that he lands. Brito throws more volume than his opponents, and he has a 0.51 significant strike differential. And plus, I think he's won 3 fights by knockout in less than a minute in his pro career. Andre Philly and 2 regional scene fights. And Joanderson's strength of schedule on the regional scene was excellent. If you guys want to take a quick look at that, we can compare the strength of schedule between these 2 guys, because Lucas Alexander, you're not going to really see any names you recognize except for the most recent win, which is against UFC veteran Jacob Kilburn, who's 8-5. But before that, it was Ty Johnson, who's also known as Ty what the hell do they call this kid? Ty Kalista. But yeah, Ty Johnson on this Tapology. But 8-5 Kilburn, 5-4 Ty Johnson, 3-1 Reggie Mack, 3-2 Carlos Guerra on Island fights, 6-7 Jeremias Fernandez, and he's not even finishing guys like Guerra and Fernandez in Island fights. Back in 2019, he couldn't even finish these guys, and then he's losing to guys like Mateus Pereira or Helio Gonzalez, and then a couple of his first couple fights against obviously very inexperienced guys, as most people start against inexperienced guys. But yeah, not a very good strength to schedule. But you look at a guy like Brito, right? And he's fighting Philly and Algio and Diego Lopez. But before that, Chepe Mariscal, 9-3. And dude, that Mariscal knockout was something else, man. Mariscal got slept, was out for about 30 seconds, and then woke up 30 seconds later thinking he was still in the fight. He was trying to get the security guys and the referee off of him. He wanted to keep fighting. He didn't even know that the fight was over, despite the fact that he was surrounded by his corner, by security, by a referee. And Brito did that with a left hand, and the right hand is his power hand. Estabilia Mato, 9-0, undefeated, 21-year-old kid. Jose Zarau's 18-4. Wellington Prado, 6-0. The legendary Peruvian Johnny Iwasaki for the FFC championship, 24-7. This guy was fighting good guys on the regional scene before he got to the UFC. A bunch of guys who are probably better than anybody, maybe except for Kilburn, that Alexander has fought. So, but right, the striking advantage, it goes to Brito. He's just got a ton of power. He's landing a knockdown over 1% of the significant strikes that he's landing. The grappling advantage I'm giving to Brito. Now, Lucas Alexander is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I believe he trains with the Fusion Excel guys. Yes. So he's over there at Fusion Excel with Phil Rowe, with Jacare, with Rodolfo Vieira. So a bunch of good grapplers over there. And he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. However, both of his pro losses are by submission, and he's never won a pro MMA fight by submission. So just because Lucas is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, it doesn't mean that he's using it well when he gets inside the cage. Brito, on the other hand, has 5 career wins by submission, and Brito has accrued almost 50% control time for in the UFC while yielding less than 20% control time against. So he does appear to be very comfortable with his wrestling and grappling at this level, while we have no evidence yet to suggest that Lucas has the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to survive at this level. He might be wearing a black belt around his waist, but there's nothing that he's done in his pro career in the cage thus far for us to suggest that he could be a better grappler or have the better submission threat or have the better ability to win minutes in comparison to Joanderson Brito. And then the strength of schedule goes to Brito, obviously. So, in summary, Brito's got a 1-inch reach advantage. He switches stances. He's got the experience advantage overall and in the UFC. He's the far better and more diverse finisher. He's got the superior striking, grappling, and strength of schedule. This should be a one-sided contest with Brito cruising to victory, picking a first or a second round KO here for Brito. There's not much to talk about here. It's a wide line. It's a big step-up spot for Lucas Alexander. Lucas looks the part. He beat Jacob Kilburn by breaking his arm with a kick. And he's been getting finishes in his last 3 fights, and it looks like he's starting to take that next step. And he does appear to be very well-rounded as well. But, this is a guy in Brito who's dangerous everywhere, extremely dangerous. And look, if it takes you to the 3rd round to finish Reggie Mack, if you're not finishing these 2-2 guys in island fights, I just don't see you really getting it done against the fighter the quality of Joanderson Brito, who they're trying to debut, against guys like Algio and Philly. Definitely like this spot for Brito, and I'm going to be picking him to win by knockout. The next fight is going to be Assuncao versus Henry. So we've got some definitely this is a really good one, man. Assuncao is old. He is, let's get the stats up here on the screen. He's 40 years old, but Victor Henry is not exactly a young man either here at 35 years old. But Victor Henry right now on Bet Online is a minus 410 favorite. Rafael Assuncao plus 310. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 100. Let's look at these stats. The measurables advantage I'm giving to Victor Henry here is he's 5 years younger. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter while Rafi is orthodox. Victor also has the way better head of hair. I mean, without question. That's not even close. But the experience advantage, that obviously is going to go to Rafael Assuncao here, as he's got 9 more professional fights, over 60 more minutes in the pro cage, over 6 more years as a pro fighter. He's got 16 more UFC level fights and over 180 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving that to Henry, as he's got the better finish rate as a pro, 63% for Henry, 52% for Assuncao. And Victor has also never been finished in 27 pro fights and 5 pro losses, while Rafi's been finished in 5 of 9 pro losses and 4 of 6 UFC losses. So Victor's definitely been more durable. Rafi only finished 3 of his 11 UFC wins, so he's definitely more of a minute winner than a moment winner. The striking advantage I'm giving to Victor Henry. It's hard to tell who's better based on the UFC metrics due to the difference in sample size between the two fighters. That being said, we've seen Rafi get knocked out in his last 2 fights. He's 40 now. He's always been a low-volume minute winner. Henry came in against Barcelos on short notice and styled on one of the better boxers in the division and landed 180 significant strikes in 15 minutes. I know it's a very small sample size, but I do see Victor throwing and landing way more volume, and his ability to roll with punches and not take damage is very impressive. I think Vic's going to style on Rafi in the striking exchanges here, just basically because Rafi doesn't really do anything. Rafi doesn't really throw any volume. And if you're a DraftKings player, you remember Rafael Assuncao for being notoriously low volume. A guy that can score 44 points in a win, in DraftKings. Like, that's the kind of fights that he's in. Victor Henry is not going to stand in front of him and play a point fighting match. Victor's going to walk forward and probably throw 3 significant strike attempts for every one that Assuncao throws. And in addition to that, Assuncao is very meat and potatoes. When you watch Victor Henry, the strike that he starts every combination with is different. He'll start with a teep kick one time. He'll start with the 2 down the pipe another time. He'll start with the jab another time. He'll start with a check hook. He starts with either hand, either leg. He'll use knees, kicks, elbows, punches. He's always throwing different combinations in different patterns, and it's just too much to try to download. And you can't just try to point fight guys like that. You've got to make them respect you. And even Barcelos was having a hard time landing square enough to make Victor Henry respect him, and it cost him dearly. 180 significant strikes that he absorbed in that fight over 15 minutes. So, if Victor Henry fights anything like he did in the Barcelos fight, he's cruising to victory here. And even if he's only 75% of as effective as he was against Barcelos, I don't see how he even really loses around here to Assuncao. I mean, Victor Henry is a guy who can be controlled on the ground. You can watch the second fight against Lavrentev and see that he can be controlled. He can lose minutes on the ground. But we've got a 17-fight sample size for Rafael Assuncao. He's only accrued 10.5% of control time, and he's only landed 17 takedowns in 17 fights. So this guy has barely accrued 20 minutes of control time, and that includes cage control time, not just ground control time, on 17 takedown attempts, 17 successful takedowns. So, for him to win enough minutes to, on the ground in order to have a chance to win this fight, he would have to get 5 times the control time that he's used to getting, and then also do it against a guy who showed 85% takedown defense against a member of the Brazilian national wrestling team in Hani Barcelos. So I know we're counting a lot on that film that we got in the Barcelos fight, but even when you go to the regional scene before this, Henry's been all over the world. He's fought very good level of competition. Dude's always got Josh Barnett in his corner. He's a legit opponent here. The grappling I have is even. Both guys have 8 wins by submission. Both guys have shown good UFC takedown defense and the ability to not lose minutes in control time positions. I'm not sure who's better here, but I see this being more of a striking battle anyway, as Rafi has only completed 17 takedowns in 17 UFC fights. So he hasn't exactly been an active wrestler, and he's accrued less than 11% control time in his almost 200 minutes in the UFC cage. So it's hard to see him laying and praying his way to a decision. If Barcelos could only manage less than 2% control time against Henry in 15 minutes on 7 takedown attempts, it's hard to see Rafi having any success either at 48 years of age. The strength of schedule goes to Assuncao. Obviously, Rafi's fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition. So Rafi's got the experience and the strength of schedule advantages. Victor Henry's got the measurables. He's got the finish stats advantage. He's got the durability advantage. He's got the striking advantage. I think Henry cruises to a victory here, either with a late finish or by decision. His performance against Barcelos was just a huge eye-opener. And if he looks even close to that good on Saturday, I think he's going to cruise against Rafi. So, yeah, I'm picking Victor Henry to win this fight, and I'm going to pick him to win it by decision. The next fight that we have up here is going to be Grappler's Delight. If you like wrestling, if you like submission grappling, if you like grinding, if you like scrambles, you are going to love Nick Maximov versus Jacob Malkoun. I'm really looking forward to this fight. So we've got Nick Maximov right now as a minus 140 favorite. Jacob Malkoun on the comeback plus 120. And the fight doesn't go to decision plus 195 here. Let's see. We've got Maximov is still only 24 years old, you guys. The measurables advantage goes to Nick. He's 3 years younger. He's 3 inches taller, and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw, while Malkoun is orthodox. So 3 is the magic number here, as we've got the 3 here, the 3 here, and the 3 here. So anyway, when it gets to the experience, I've got that as even. Both fighters have almost identical experience stats as professionals. Maximov has been more active as a pro, is the only major difference between these two guys. The finish stats and durability, I've got to give the advantage to Maximov, as Nick has the better finish rate as a pro, 62.5% compared to 33% for Jacob. And Nick was subbed in his only pro loss, and Malkoun was knocked out in one of 2 pro losses. But if you watch Nick fight, the dude can take a punch. He's definitely more durable in terms of how much striking damage he can accrue in a fight and still be able to keep going, while Malkoun got melted in the only fight that he took any damage, and that was against Phil Hawes in his debut. The striking, the striking, I'm just going to call it even because both of these guys are pure grapplers. Neither one has spent more than 30% of their UFC cage time at distance striking range. If this winds up being a 15-minute striking match, it is going to be terrible, and it is going to make you want to cut your own eyes out with a paring knife. But, I just don't think that that's going to wind up being the case in this fight. Both of these guys sell out for the grappling, and I think that both of them are going to be very eager to show the other that they're the better guy in the cage when it comes to being able to win minutes in the grappling. So I've got the grappling even as well. And I mean, God, look at these numbers. We've got 63% control time for Maximov, 62% control time for Malkoun. Malkoun only allowing 8.61% control time against, while Maximov has been controlled almost 16% of his UFC cage time thus far. Malkoun has given up takedowns on the only 2 that he's faced, but he's actually giving up less control time in aggregate in comparison to Maximov because of about twice as much. But these guys, 7 takedowns for 15 minutes for Malkoun, 5.5 for Maximov. Both of these guys attempting submissions when they get down there. Both of these guys not spending a lot of time on their back. But look, Maximov's fights are taking place in control time positions almost 80% of the 46 minutes that he's been in there. So about 36 to 37 minutes of those 46 have been on the cage or on the ground. And for Malkoun, it's almost that high at just below 71%. So I think Maximov is the better submission grappler. I think Jacob Malkoun has the better conditioning. But this is, in my opinion, just a true coin toss here. Maximov bigger, probably stronger, but both of these guys are excellent wrestlers. And what I really like about Malkoun is that when we do see him on the bottom, boy, he is just never taking a breath, never settling for that position. Whenever Brandon Allen got on top of him, Malkoun immediately went to deep half and started working his way back to his feet, or working to get on Brendan's back, or working for the reverse. And even a grappler the quality of Brendan Allen was able to do very little against Jacob Malkoun on the ground. And actually, Malkoun won more, about 60 to 65% of the control time positions in that fight. Very, very impressive, as we saw him just go through Krzysztof Jotko like a hot knife through butter on the ground. So in terms of the grappling quality that we've seen these guys face, Brendan Allen is as good as anybody on the ground that Maximov has faced with Petroski, Soriano, and Brundage here thus far. But, Dobson had showed really good takedown defense in the first, but Malkoun just kept going to it. And in the second and the third, he got the fight to the ground. And once he did, he broke Dobson. And then Abdul Razak Al Hassan, we all remember what happened there. I mean, Abdul got nothing off for 15 straight minutes. Basically got controlled that entire fight. Maximov against Kota, that was a heavyweight fight. I mean, there's not much we can even talk about there. That fight shouldn't have even happened. Oscar Kota is terrible. And Maximov did what he needed to do there, but he was fighting a guy that was like probably about 60 pounds heavier than him. So it's hard to take much from that fight. Great win over Brundage. Very great fight against Soriano, a scrambler's delight. Great wrestling. He showed really good conditioning there. And then Petroski, don't know what happened there, man. That was just wild to see Petroski get that Darson and just completely finish it within, a minute. And just scary, because Malkoun is so good on the ground. This is a very close fight. I like the Malkoun number here because it's got a plus next to it. Because I think that these guys are very, very well matched. And I think you could find Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts and career wrestlers who could give you a better breakdown of this fight than I can. Talking about the stylistic components of how they wrestle, of how they scramble. But this is just a beautiful grappling matchup here, and I can't wait to see who comes out on top. And whoever does is really going to have a feather in their cap. But the strength is, I've got everything even in this fight. It's crazy. Striking even, grappling even, strength of schedule even. Maximov has the measurables advantage. He's been the busier fighter, and he has the finish stats advantage. Malkoun has fought the more experienced UFC competition. He's probably got the better conditioning. I think he might have the best conditioning in the entire division, to be honest with you. Maybe next to Anthony Hernandez. He just really puts a pace on. 54 takedown attempts in 45 minutes, while for Maximov, it's 37 takedown attempts in 46 minutes. So Malkoun just so active, 4 more takedowns and 17 more takedown attempts in just less than 1 minute. He's got 1 minute less cage time than Maximov. So I think Malkoun will be more voluminous, if you will, in terms of just more volume with the strikes, more volume with the wrestling, more volume with the scrambling. I'm going to pick Jacob Malkoun to win this fight by decision. I think fight goes to split decision could be a very interesting look in this fight. I think that both of these guys are going to win minutes in the grappling exchanges here. I think they're both superior wrestlers. I think they're both fantastic submission grapplers. Can't wait for this one. But, I think the plus money side is the side to play because it's a grappler versus grappler matchup. I'm going to pick Jacob Malkoun to win this one by decision. The next fight is going to be, let's see here. Hang on just a second. It's going to be Mana Martinez against Brandon Davis. We got Leo Mana minus 152 here. Brandon Davis plus 132. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 115. So basically the bookies are stumped. They don't know if this one's going the full 15 or if it's not, and they got it at 50-50. All right. So let's get these stats up on the screen here. Martinez versus Davis. So we've got a measurables advantage goes to Davis here in the size and to Martinez with the youth. So Davis is a huge bantamweight. He will be the bigger dude here and he'll have a 2-inch reach advantage. However, Mana is 6 years younger than Brandon Davis. The experience advantage goes to Davis because he's got 11 more fights, as we can see here. He's got over 120 more minutes in the pro cage. 2 more years as a pro fighter. Brandon also has the UFC experience advantage with 6 more fights and over 70 more minutes in the UFC cage. The advantage also goes to Martinez for the finish stats and the durability, as Mana has been the better finish rate as a pro. 89% finish rate for Mana, 54% finish rate for Brandon Davis. And he's also been finished at a lower rate in his losses, has Martinez. When it's 33% for Martinez in his losses, 38% for Brandon Davis. Davis is more of an equal opportunity finisher, as he's got 4 subs and 4 knockouts, while all 8 of Mana's finish wins are by KO. The striking advantage goes to Martinez, in my opinion. Let's see here. It's going to be the volume of Davis versus the power of Martinez. Both guys land slightly more significant strikes per minute than their opponents. Martinez is way more accurate at 50.62% in comparison to 35% for Davis. But Davis is better defensively, as he's got a 60.6% striking defense compared to a 41.6% striking defense for Mana Martinez. Martinez has the way better power numbers with 0.93 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and Davis has never knocked anybody down at the UFC level. But Mana's being knocked down on 2.6% of the strikes he absorbs, and that averages out to 1.39 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes, while it's only 0.28 for Brandon Davis, as Davis has been a lot more able to absorb strikes on the feet. The grappling, I'm going to call it even. I don't know who's the better grappler here. Both guys average less than 6.5% control time for, and both get out-controlled by their opponents at about a 4-to-1 ratio. Both dudes have terrible takedown defense, but Martinez is piss poor. 12.5% takedown defense, you guys. He's had 8 takedowns shot against him, and 7 of them have been successful. While Davis looks way better in comparison at 56% in his takedown defense, but both of these guys have got really bad takedown defense. Whether it's 56% or 12.5%, they're both way below average, but obviously that 12.5% is much worse. And you look at the, Davis is allowing 3.37 takedowns per 15 minutes, and Mana's allowing 3.24. And they're both being controlled around 25% of their UFC career, but it's more for Mana because he fought Ronnie Lawrence, who's a really good wrestler and control time grappler. So whoever goes to the wrestling first is probably going to have a chance to win minutes in the grappling, but we can't really count on either guy to do that based on prior performance. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Davis here, as I can get this up on the screen. Brandon has fought the better competition overall by a pretty good margin in his 9 UFC fights. However, Martinez has the better wins according to my metric. Now, there's only one win for Mana, and it was against Guido Canetti. But that was by split decision. It was a very close fight, man. I remember holding the Mana ticket that day and just being absolutely terrified that he wasn't going to come out the other end with that win because it was just way too close. So, look, Martinez is 6 years younger. He's got the better finish rate. He has more power on the feet, and he has the better UFC win according to my metric. Davis is bigger. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He has the overall and the UFC experience advantages here. He's better defensively in the striking, and he's fought the better brand of competition overall. I think I'm leaning Martinez here due to the durability he showed against Lawrence. Davis can't seem to take a shot at 135. He cuts too much weight to maintain that durability. I think Mana wins. I think it could be inside the distance by knockout, but I don't want to just start saying because Brandon Davis got knocked out in his last fight that all of a sudden he's going to be chinny. Because, look, Brandon Davis, you guys, if I can get this on the screen here, he's got 23 professional fights. He's been knocked out once. And it was by Vergara, a guy with a ton of power. And now we know that Mana Martinez has power, but he doesn't have UFC-level power. He couldn't knock out Guido Canetti, and Guido Canetti gets finished a lot when he loses. He's knocked out the regional scene guys that he's beaten, Casey Jones, Jose Johnson, Ricky Tercios on the regional scene, and then a lot of regional scene guys. But when he's up here against Lawrence, Canetti, Draco Rodriguez, he's lost 2 of those 3 fights. I don't know if I can trust Mana Martinez. I mean, he was getting absolutely smoked by Ronnie Lawrence in that fight until the 3rd round. And then we saw Ronnie go out there and get absolutely dog-walked by Saidukub Kakramanov, who's a hell of a prospect. And he just accepted a super tough fight, did Kakramanov. I forgot who it was against, but I mean, he's a bantamweight. There's not going to be any easy fights from him here on out, dude. That division is just so stacked. But yeah, he took a very high-level fight. We'll see how that goes for Saidukub. But yeah, I mean, I'm picking Mana Martinez to win this fight because I think he's more dangerous. And, I think that he's probably more likely to wrestle here. And that if he does, he could win minutes on the ground against Brandon. But this fight feels like a giant stay away for me. I think maybe we're a little bit too low on Brandon Davis. Like I say, he's bigger. He's more experienced. He's fought the better brand of competition. And he throws a ton of volume on the feet. So if Mana doesn't land the big shot, Brandon's going to be live here at plus money. But, yeah, I'm going to pick Mana. And I think he probably could win it by knockout, but I'm not going to bet it. I'm going to stay away from this one. Misha Cirkunov against Alonzo Menifield. Another interesting fight, man. Misha, a pretty big underdog here at plus 170. The Menifield at minus 200. The fight doesn't go to decision, is juiced up to minus 260 here. So 205-pound fight. It is Misha moving back up. So he had 2 fights at 185. They were against Krzysztof Jotko and Wellington Turman. Now he's moving back up to 205, which is where he had all of his UFC wins. And we've got Alonzo Menifield here, a little bit older than everybody thinks he is because he hasn't been a mixed martial artist for long, only 7 years in comparison to 12 and a half for Cirkunov. But let's break down these numbers. The measurables advantage goes to Misha, as he's 3 inches taller and he's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Alonzo is less than a year younger, but Alonzo Menifield with the much better pectoral muscles, obviously. But in terms of height, in terms of reach, we got to give that to Misha. The experience advantage, that also goes to Misha. He's got 8 more professional fights in comparison to Alonzo. He's got 20 more minutes in the pro cage and has almost 6 more years as a pro fighter. Misha also has 2 more fights at the UFC level in comparison to Zoe, but it's Zoe who has over 10 more minutes of UFC cage time. Both guys' UFC average fight time sits below 7.5 minutes here. Finish stats and durability. The advantage goes to Menifield for the durability. Both guys are impressive finishers in their wins overall, and at the UFC level, actually. Misha has an 86% finish rate as a pro, and for Zoe, it's 92%. Misha's finished all 6 of his UFC wins, 5 of them by sub, 1 by knockout, and Zoe has finished 6 of his 7 UFC wins, 5 by knockout, 1 by submission. Alonzo has only been finished in 1 of 3 pro losses by knockout, while Misha has been finished in 7 of 8 pro losses and in 5 of 6 UFC losses. The only guy not to finish Misha was Jotko, and Jotko does not finish anybody. The striking advantage, I'm going to go with Alonzo Menifield here. Both guys have decent UFC striking metrics, as they both have positive significant strike differentials and over 50% striking accuracy. Excuse me, guys. Menifield's more accurate and who has way more power on the feet. Cirkunov has been chinnier, absorbing 0.75 knockdowns per 15 minutes, while that number is slightly less for Menifield at 0.41. The percentage at which they absorb knockdowns per significant strikes landed is twice as bad for Misha. It's 1.67% for Misha, and it's 0.85% for Alonzo Menifield. Now, as much of a striking advantage as Menifield has, Cirkunov's probably got even more of an advantage in the grappling. Misha is going to have a serious grappling advantage here. He averages 4.25 takedowns per 15 minutes and 1.75 submissions per 15 minutes. So he's active getting the fight to the ground, and then he goes all out to finish it once it's there. Both guys have solid takedown defense, and Zoe's in particular is impressive at almost 83%. He's a big dude. He's very strong, and he's difficult to take down. But if Misha can get it there, he's going to be very dangerous. The strength of schedule advantage also goes to Cirkunov, as Misha has fought, beaten the better win-loss ratio and the more experienced competition. Misha's got the size and the reach advantage. He's got the overall and the UFC experience advantages here, the grappling advantage, and the strength of schedule advantage, while Menifield is just a bit younger. He's a bit more durable, and he's got the striking and the power advantages. I mean, it's a tough fight to call. Alonzo's very dangerous on the feet, but Misha's got good striking. You know, people just write off this dude's striking like it's absolutely terrible. This guy has got good striking, and he's been up at 205, fighting much better brand of competition in comparison to Menifield. But those grappling numbers are very impressive, as we see the 4.25 takedowns per 15 minutes, the 1.75 submission attempts per 15 minutes. He's in control time positions about 45% of the time, while Menifield's in control time positions about 40% of the time. It's just Menifield's winning a higher percentage of his control time positions. He's very, very efficient. But the problem with that is that control time that he is getting is against guys like Ed Herman, Askar Mazarov, and Fabio Cherant. I mean, when he's fighting real UFC competition, he's not winning minutes, you know, in the grappling. He is getting worn down. And somebody like Misha Cirkunov, you know, could give Menifield the kind of problems that William Knight gave him, that Devin Clark gave Menifield. I mean, Menifield, the wins that we've seen lately, the last three wins, Cherant, Herman, and Mozarov, I mean, he was huge favorites in all of those fights. But this guy Cirkunov has just been in there with the much better brand of competition. Even like the better ratio in the wins and the more experienced competition in the wins. And then the much better ratio overall in the more experienced competition too. And you know what I mean? Like the experience of competition kind of gets skewed for Menifield because he fights a guy like Ed Herman at the end of his career, you know, who had a ton of fights, who's been in the UFC since like 2006, you know. So I think that the plus money number here on Misha is very, very interesting. Sure, he could get chin checked in the first round and slept. Absolutely. But that can happen to anyone in mixed martial arts. But if you look at who's fought the better brand of competition, who's the better grappler, who's got the better frame for the weight class, who's got the better conditioning even, I like Misha in a lot of spots here. And I think he's a much better wrestler than a lot of the guys that tried to take down Menifield in the past. Even somebody like Devin Clark, who's an excellent, you know, got an excellent wrestling pedigree, JUCO national champion. When you look at Devin Clark's UFC numbers, you know, in the wrestling, this guy's getting his takedowns at like a 25% clip. He's not a great takedown artist, while Misha's getting his at a 43% clip. He's averaging over 5 per 15 minutes, and he's averaging almost 2 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So while I do agree that Menifield is more dangerous and more powerful on the feet, and that he's got excellent takedown defense, so people think that Cirkunov won't be able to get him there, I think Cirkunov is a much better wrestler than what we've seen Menifield face in the past. I mean, look at this. The last 5 names, none of these guys could wrestle their way out of a fucking paper bag. Ovince St. Preux attempts 1 takedown every decade. Fabio Cherant, no. Ed Herman, no. William Knight will attempt takedowns, but doesn't really do anything on the ground against anybody. And Askar Mozarov doesn't even own a gi. So I don't even know. I mean, you compare him to guys like Turman and Jotko and Span and Krut and some of these other guys that Misha's been to the ground with, man, it's not even close. So plus 170 for Misha Cirkunov is something that I'm going to be taking a very long look at this week. And I think the money might even come in even more on Menifield just because People say he's got an excellent takedown defense and he's got more power on the feet. And Misha's getting knocked out all the time. I think that's the surface narrative of this fight. But I think if you dig a little bit deeper, Misha's not as overmatched on the feet as you think he is. And Alonzo Menifield is a lot more overmatched in the grappling exchanges here. And both of these guys are spending over 40% of their fights on the aggregate in control time position. So I think it's a great sneaky spot for the plus money side here on Misha Cirkunov. Let's see where we are at here. Yeah, we've got 53 of you guys hanging out. We're an hour and 25 minutes in to Just the Tip this week. And we've got how many fights left? Todorovic, Wright, Askarov, Royval, Martinez, Swanson, and Grasso, Araujo. You guys up for a real quick story time with Uncle Weezy? Huh? Let's do it. I'm going to take you back to Northern Illinois University, the year, I believe, 1994, 1995. You guys will see somebody hanging out in the chat here every once in a while named Chris Kalanzis. And Chris is one of my fraternity brothers up at Northern Illinois. We went to college together back in the 90s. And like myself, Chris is also of Greek descent. But the difference between the two of us is that he grew up like speaking Greek in his house, as much Greek as he did English. We spoke no Greek in my house, so I grew up really not learning the language. And like the only thing that I ever remember my grandfather ever saying to me was, "Why you no speak Greek, Michael?" You know, so the fact that I didn't speak Greek, I always felt it kind of like a handicap being around a Greek family, Greek Easter, Christmas time. They're all speaking Greek. I don't understand a word of what's going on, but anyway, there's a Greek-owned fast food place up at Northern Illinois back in the day called Tom and Jerry's. And they actually had Tom and Jerry, like the cartoon characters on their little sign. Like most restaurants, they're almost all Greek-owned no matter where you go. The Greeks are always in the restaurant business. So one time we went out at night, just a regular weeknight, and we wanted to go get a Euro plate over at Tom and Jerry's. So we go there. It's late at night, maybe about 10 or 11. And we go in there for some late night food, and we're going to take it home to go, right? So we go in, and of course, Greek-owned place, the family that's working there is Greek, So me and Chris walk up. We both got long hair. Chris has got 2 earrings. I've got 1, and the lady behind the counter is talking to her daughter in the back. And she's saying some shit in Greek, like, she's looking at us, and then she's looking at her daughter in the back and kind of having a conversation with her daughter while obviously looking back at both of us and talking about us. And I'm kind of like thinking to myself, I wonder what the hell they're saying, but I'm also kind of laughing to myself going, I know Chris knows what they're saying, right? And so I walk up there and, I started ordering, and, like she's putting in my order and then yelling to her daughter in the back, something in Greek, and then talking to me in English, talking to her daughter in Greek. And then, and when I'm done, I turn around, I look at Chris, and he's just smiling. I'm like, what is going on here? What are they saying? Right. And, so Chris walks up there and he starts speaking like an American, right? I mean, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to have a gyro plate and some fries. And let me try some of that Avgo lemon soup that you have. And then, she's now the lady that's taking the order, she's kind of laughing. She keeps turning back to her daughter in the back. And then Chris says something, like he finishes off the order, and then he looks at the woman right in the eye, and then he says something to her in Greek. Now, I have no idea what he says to her in Greek. And I see her eyes pop open, and her jaw drops, and she's just looking at Chris, frozen in fear. And I have no fucking clue what's going on. So then Chris starts speaking to her in Greek some more, and now I could tell he's angry, and and he's pointing at her, and then he's pointing at the girl in the back, and it's all in Greek, so I don't understand what the fuck's going on. And I'm just sitting there, just watching. I don't know what's happening, and so the look on the lady's face changed. She starts yelling at her daughter in the back, and then she just walks back there and gets away from the front. And so I look at Chris. I'm like, dude, what the fuck just happened, man? And he goes, don't worry about it. I'll tell you about it in the car. And I'm like, well, how much do we owe him? And he goes, oh, it's free. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So, all right. So we get our food. We don't have to pay. We walk out to the car. I go, dude, what the fuck happened? He goes, all right, so check this out. You walk up there to give your order, and she starts calling you gay. She says you got long hair and your earring. And she goes, she said, which one of these guys puts it in the other one's ass? So they're talking about us right in front of us, saying that we're gay, and they're trying to guess which one of us gives it and which one of us takes it. And she's saying, and the lady behind the counter was saying to her daughter, I think that I'm the one that gives it because this guy over here has got 2 earrings and this guy's got 1. So I think he's the one that puts it in his ass. And the whole time, Chris is understanding every word that they're saying and then just pretending that he doesn't know what's going on. And when he goes up there to give his order, he says to her in Greek after he gives his order, oh, by the way, your daughter gives great head. Do you know how I know that? Because I'm not gay. Because my friend doesn't put it in my ass, and I've had sex with more women this month than your husband has fucked you in the last 10 years. I come to this restaurant all the time. I'm of Greek descent. I come from the same village as some of the people who killed the most Turks back in the war in around 1900. And this is how I get treated when I come into a Greek restaurant to eat. And this is what he said to her. And she started crying. She went into the back. She gave us our food for free. And Chris never paid for another meal there as long as we went to that school. So if you speak more than one language and you're going to talk shit about people in front of their face, just give them a nice little once over. Because what was hilarious was if you were to look at my friend Chris, you would look at him and go, yeah, he's probably Greek. The dude looks Greek. I mean, he's got the black hair. He's got those Mediterranean features, I don't understand why she would take this chance and talk like that about us in front of our faces, but she got totally fucking caught red-handed, and we got a free meal that night. So it was thoroughly enjoyable. I just remembered that one earlier today. I thought that maybe you guys might enjoy it. But on this particular card of UFC action where there's not a lot to bet on, there's not a lot of great reads, I figured I'd give you a little story time with Uncle Weezy to make just the tip with Uncle Weezy this week just a little more tolerable. Hope you guys enjoyed it. But let's move on to these last 4 fights. And we've got a pretty funny one here with Dusko Todorovic squaring off against Jordan, the Beverly Hills Ninja Wright. We got Dusko Todorovic at minus 205 as a favorite. Jordan Wright at plus 175. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 600. So we've got, let's see here. The measurables advantage here is going to go to Wright, as he's 1 inch taller and he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. Dusko is 2.5 years younger, but both guys are pretty much in their prime right now. Dusko at 28, Jordan at 30. The experience advantage goes to Dusko here. Both guys have a similar amount of pro and UFC fights. However, it's Dusko is one who has 40 more minutes in the pro cage and 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. So he gets the experience advantage here just by being there longer. And then the finish stats and durability, the advantage goes to Todorovic in the durability. Both guys are really talented finishers. 100% finish rate for Wright, a 91% finish rate for Dusko. Dusko is a little more durable, though, as he's been finished in 2 of 3 pro losses, while Wright has never seen a third round in his career, and he's been finished in all 4 of his UFC losses. The striking advantage, I'm going to give to Jordan Wright. Wright's the more dangerous striker, in my opinion. He's landing a knockdown on 2.15% of the significant strikes he lands, averaging out to 2.38 knockdowns per 15 minutes. He also has an excellent 66.43% striking accuracy. Todorovic has the better significant strike differential. It's positive at 0.59 compared to negative 0.24 for Jordan Wright. And he's got the much better striking defense in comparison to Wright, that is. I mean, Todorovic, not great defensively at 48% striking defense. That's way better than 37% striking defense of Jordan Wright. And the knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes, 0.86 for Todorovic, which is a lot, but 4.76 per 15 minutes for Jordan Wright. So Jordan Wright, good hammer, really bad nail. The guy is not durable. He cannot take a shot, but if he catches you before you catch him, he's got a very good chance to get you out of there and get you out of there early. The dude hits very, very hard. The grappling advantage goes to Dusko by a mile. He's always done his best work in the UFC when he's grappling. He's got an elite top game. He's got excellent ground and pound and dangerous submissions. He can absolutely win minutes on the feet against Wright, but his easiest path to victory would be to take Jordan down and sub him. Jordan was subbed in his last fight against Marc-Andre Barriault, and Dusko is a much better grappler than Marc-Andre Barriault. Dusko hasn't been good at getting the fight to the ground, but if he does get it there, he's going to have a big advantage here versus Wright. The strength of the schedule advantage does go to Wright, though, as neither guy has an impressive strength of schedule by any stretch of the imagination, but Wright has the edge in overall strength of schedule and wins. So Dusko's got the cage time experience. He's slightly more durable, and he has the grappling advantage, while Wright is bigger, longer, and is a slightly better finisher in comparison to Dusko. And he's got the striking and a slight strength of schedule advantage. I'm going to go with Dusko here because he has more ways to win this fight, in my opinion. The fight doesn't go the distance, is a great bet, but the bookies are absolutely all over it. I think we got minus 600, is it, for this one? It's not showing here because it's Dusko or Durko Todorovic on this stupid thing. So Dusko, because it'll be spelled right here, we can see what the fight doesn't go to decision is here. And minus 600, minus 550 on Betway. So, I mean, we can't really do much with that. The under 1.5 is minus 220-ish. It could potentially be a parlay piece for like the greasy four-legger. I might throw Piera Rodriguez's money line in there. I might throw the fight or the under 1.5 in this fight. Might throw the under 1.5 in the Menifield fight. But this is just juice to the tits. I know my guy Brandon, the MMA Propaholic, got this thing at like minus 130 when it opened. And if you got on the under 1.5 when it opened, props to you. And then we also know that I don't think Jordan Wright has even been over 1.5 once in his life. So it's a great bet, but it's just so juiced. Like if we were to look at the prop template here, which is available on my Patreon, when we look at the Todorovic Wright fight for under 2.5 minus 215, that's 68.25% implied probability. But still, when you look at the fighters combined in their 12 combined UFC fights, 9 of them have been under 1.5. That's 75%. So that's a 6.75% difference. We're actually paying less on the implied probability of this line than what the aggregate 75% under 1.5 rate between Todorovic and Wright at the UFC level. So we're actually getting a little bit of value there at minus 215. And, only 2 of these guys' 30 combined professional fights have went to decision. That's 6.67%. 93.33% of these guys' combined pro fights are finished inside the distance. But we're paying 86% on that line. So we're overpaying by 2.58% here, but we're underpaying by 6.75%. So I think the money is more well spent at minus 215 for the under 1.5 than it would be trying to parlay a minus 610 here. But violence is the way to go. Both of these guys are very violent fighters. They both hit very, very hard, and they're both defensively poor on the feet. So like the under 1.5 here potentially is a parlay piece. I like Dusko to win this fight, but I'm not going to be betting Dusko just because I think Jordan Wright's incredibly live. But if you are betting Dusko, take a look at that first round knockout prop for Jordan Wright at plus 800. That is his best win condition for any UFC level fight. So that could be a good way to hedge if you get a little bit of cold feet about the Dusko bet. But yeah, I'm picking Dusko to win, picking to win it by first round knockout, but I am not betting it. So the next fight that we're going to take a look at here is Brandon Royval versus Askar Askarov. Very interesting high-level flyweight fight here. Let me get the lines up on the screen for you guys. I've got minus 237 for Askarov, and I've got plus 202 for Brandon Royval. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 115. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay. So let me get my notes up on the screen here. The measurables advantage goes to Brandon Royval. He's got a 3-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage, and he is a southpaw while Askarov is orthodox. Both guys are virtually identical in edge. In the experience, I'm having it even here because Royval's got 5 more fights in comparison to Askarov. However, pretty much every other experience-based stat is virtually identical, except for the fact that Askarov has over 30 more minutes in the UFC cage, despite the fact that Royval has 1 more UFC fight. And that's because all 5 of Askarov's fights have went to decision. The finish stats and durability edge I'm giving to Brandon Royval here, as he has got a slightly better finish rate as a pro, 85% for Royval, 77% for Askarov. But at the UFC level, Royval has finished 3 of his 4 wins, all by submission, while Askarov hasn't finished any of his 4 wins. Both guys are very durable, as Askarov has never been finished in 15 pro fights, and Royval has been finished twice in 6 pro losses, and one of those finishes was due to a shoulder injury. The striking advantage, I'm going to give to Brandon Royval because he brings chaos in every stage of the fight. Both guys have almost identical significant strike differentials, but Askarov is way more accurate and more defensively responsible, while Royval is only 37% accurate. He has a lot of power as he's averaging 0.7 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Royval has also been the more likely guy to get dropped, as he's also allowing 0.7 knockdowns allowed, while that number is 0.2 for Askarov. So Royval is more explosive, and he throws way more volume, while Askarov is a better minute winner in a measured kickboxing match, I would say. The grappling given to Askarov. Both of these guys are very talented grapplers. However, it's clearly Askarov who's the more willing offensive wrestler and minute winner in control time positions. Royval has allowed 17 takedowns in only 6 fights, and he's defending takedowns at a 39% rate. He's allowing 5.92 takedowns per 15 minutes and 1.39 submission attempts against per 15 minutes. So if you want to take this guy down and win minutes on top, it's easy to do. You just have to dodge his submission attempts, and he is very tricky from the ground and from his back. Royval is attempting 2.44 submission attempts for 15 minutes, so he's very active trying to win moments on the ground. Askarov outcontrols his opponents at better than a 2-to-1 ratio, while Royval gets outcontrolled at 3.5-to-1 in control time positions. The strength of schedule also goes to Askarov, as he's fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition. So in summary, Askarov has the UFC cage time advantage, the durability advantage, the grappling advantage, and the strength of schedule advantage, while Royval has the measurables, the finish stats, and the striking and power advantages. I'm picking Askar to get the job done here because I think he can get a takedown whenever he wants if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet. So I'm going to pick Askarov by decision. So it's a great fight, though, because Royval is a difficult test for anybody to handle. You look at what he does here, 9.01 significant strike attempts per minute. His opponents are only throwing 5.45. So he can immediately put you in a situation where you're going to be very uncomfortable on the feet because he's walking forward, because he's throwing bombs. But Askarov is the kind of guy who's going to duck under those bombs and get it on a double leg or a single leg and get this fight to the ground. And he does it over and over and over again. I think I had an error on my stats here, so let me just bring this up. I got 13 of 53 for takedowns here for Askarov, 24.53%. I've got him controlling his opponents 31.31% of the time, and 14.29% of the time he's being controlled. You look at the control time numbers here, he's never gotten less than 239 seconds out of 900 control time in any fight at the UFC level. So this guy is very good at controlling his opponents and winning minutes in these exchanges. 53 takedown attempts in only 5 fights, in only 45, 60, 75 minutes. So this guy's got almost at 1 takedown attempt per minute. And he's always getting this control time. And if you look at somebody like Royval, he's given up a shit ton of control time. The least he's ever given up was against Matt Schnell, and Matt Schnell doesn't attempt takedowns. But against Bontarine, he gives up 461 seconds of control time. Against Pantoja, 171 seconds out of 406. Against Moreno, 181 seconds of control time out of 300. Against Kai Kara France, he gives up 91 seconds of control time to a guy in Kara France who doesn't grapple at all, really. And then 241 seconds of control time, he gets out-controlled against Tim Elliott, and that's in only a 500-second fight. So he loses 50% of that fight in control time positions, and then Elliott gasses out and he gets subbed. So the amount of control time that Brandon Royval gives up on the regular is just too much for me to think that Royval wins this fight any other way by a finish. Otherwise, I just don't see him winning 2 out of 3 rounds when he's going to probably be on his back for a good portion of this fight. So I think Askarov by decision is the pick. I think that if you're on that Royval side, maybe try the finish-only prop for Royval, because I don't think he's winning minutes here. I don't see him winning a 15-minute decision here, because the second he starts getting off on Askar on the feet, Askar is going to try to take this dude down. And then because he's only got, and then if we look at the control time, I mean, like the takedown numbers, 4 of 10, 0 of 1, 2 of 2, 3 of 6, 8 of 9. Bontarine is 8 of 9 on his takedown attempts, you guys. This guy gives up entirely too many takedowns, entirely too much control time. And he's only gotten 2 reverses. So it's not like he's getting that control time back all that often either. So, yeah, it's going to be Askarov by decision here. And at plus money, I think that might be a bet that I look at here. But we got to remember that even though Askarov's been a decision in all 5 of his UFC fights, I believe every other fight prior to that has been a finish. And let's just take a look at it here real quick for Askar. Because Askar was minus 450 in his last fight. You know, and that was a very close fight to Kai Kara France. But Kai Kara France has got 86% takedown defense. Brandon Royval's got 43% takedown defense. So, yeah, win by guillotine against Albashkanov. Win by twister round 3. Win by anaconda choke round 5. Win by rear naked round 2. Punches round 2. Rear naked round 3. Round 2. Round 1. Round 1. Round 2. Yeah, so, I mean, like when he's fighting inexperienced guys, he's getting early finishes. When he starts fighting better guys, he's getting late finishes. But, dude, this guy was getting finishes in ACB all the time, man. So it wasn't until UFC that he stopped getting finishes. So he could get a finish here. Might be his first UFC finish, but I think decision is the more likely outcome for this fight, man. Let's see. Bob is saying that Weezy, the stats on Royval fight are kind of skewed because he would sometimes win minutes while being controlled. Yeah, that's because of the submission attempts that he's going for. Yes, that can be the case. Absolutely. If you're very, very aggressive off your back and you're like Royval, who's attempting about 2.5 submissions per 15 minutes, that I see exactly what you're saying there, Bob. It's an excellent point. Let's move on to this next fight, though, as we've only got 2 more to break down, I think. And it is going to be Cub Swanson against Jonathan the Dragon Martinez here. And we'll get that up. We got Martinez at minus 212, Cub Swanson at plus 182. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 110 here. And let's see. Let's get to these notes. And the measurables advantage I've got going to Martinez here, because these guys have got the exact same height and reach measurements, but it's Martinez who's 10 years younger, and he's a southpaw, while Cub is making his bantamweight debut at 38 years of age. So the most crucial piece of info for this fight is going to be how Cub looks on the scales on Friday. You know, to make this cut down to 135 for the first time in your career at 38, as much as I like Cub Swanson in this spot on paper right now, there's no way I can commit any money to him until I see how he looks on that scale, whether he makes weight at all. But he is the exact same size, exact same reach here as Martinez. So I assume it's, you know, a weight cut that he can make. And he probably consulted some pretty smart people as to whether it would be possible for him to do without being, you know, putting him in jeopardy. And evidently they told him yes. So we'll see how it goes. But I still have to see him on the scale. But that experience advantage, I don't need to see him on the scale to know that he's got the experience advantage. He's got 20 more professional fights. He's also got about 170 more minutes in the pro cage and almost 10 more years as a pro fighter. Cub also has the UFC experience advantage with 11 more UFC fights and almost 120 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, the finish stats edge goes to Swanson. The durability edge goes to Martinez here, as Swanson has got the better overall finish rate at 60% to 57% for Jonathan Martinez. But at the UFC level, Cub is finishing 46% of his UFC wins, and it's only 29% for Martinez. So I've got Swanson as the better finisher. And both guys have only finished fights by KO at the UFC level. Now, Martinez has been more durable, being finished in 25% of his losses in comparison to 75% of Cub Swanson losses. He's been finished. And Martinez has also been finished at a lower rate in the UFC, as he's been finishing 1 of 3 UFC losses, while for Cub Swanson, it's 6 of 8. So it's a 75% finish rate against for Cub Swanson at the UFC level, in addition to at the pro level. The striking, I'm going to give a slight edge to Cub Swanson here. Both of these guys have almost identical striking metrics at the UFC level, but the major difference is being that Cub earned those stats up a weight class at 145. Cub has the slightly better significant strike differential at positive 1.07 in comparison to 0.95 for Martinez. He's got the better striking accuracy in comparison to Martinez, 51% for Swanson, 48% for Martinez. And Cub has absorbed less knockdowns per 15 minutes at 0.12 comparison to 0.44 for Jonathan Martinez. So the striking defense and knockdowns per 15 are virtually identical for both fighters. So just a couple of metric edges there for Cub Swanson, plus the fact that he was fighting at 145. The grappling advantage, I'm going to give to Swanson. I know that Cub has been a long-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. However, we never see him ever go to his grappling, ever offensively. He just does not grapple offensively. This guy has got 12 takedowns in 21 UFC fights. So this guy is not active at all with the wrestling. You can't count on him to wrestle at all. He keeps that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in his pocket, and he doesn't use it at all. Cub gets a little bit better for takedowns per 15 minutes at 0.7 compared to 0.54 for Martinez. And he's getting his takedowns at a slightly better percentage, 54.5% to 50% for Martinez. But both these guys are very accurate with their takedown attempts. They don't do it often, so when they do it, they try to get them. But it's Martinez who's getting taken down less per 15 minutes at 0.76 per 15 minutes allowed, as Swanson's getting taken down 1.53 times per 15 minutes. And he's also giving up less control time as Martinez at only 8% compared to 18% for Cub. I see this being a striking match, though, as neither guy really wrestles at all. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Swanson. Cub has fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss competition and more experienced competition, and it really isn't even close. So, in summary, Martinez is 10 years younger. He's a southpaw, and he's more durable. While Swanson has the experience edge, the finish stats edge, he's got the slight striking and grappling advantages, but I just don't think the grappling advantage means anything. And he's got a big strength to schedule advantage. So if Cub looks good on the scale on Friday, I'll happily take a 1-unit shot on him at plus 182. I think Cub has the tools to win this fight, as he has so many advantages on paper, but there's no reason to make a decision on this fight until we see Cub on the scales, cutting down to 135 for the first time in your career at 38 years of age, with 40 pro fights and over 400 minutes of cage time, is something that your body just might not be able to respond to well at all. So that is the big hanging chad here, and that's why you have to pay up for like minus 210 for a guy in Martinez who really on paper, I mean, he's just not better anywhere than Cub Swanson. So why should we pay minus 210? Well, it's because Cub might not be able to take a punch at 135. He might even be less durable at 135 than he was at 145, where he was getting finished in 75% of his pro losses. So it's an interesting fight. It's a fight where we're missing a little bit of information because we've never seen Cub at 135. But if Cub makes the weight cut and makes it well, if that power translates down here at 135, and if he's not really any more chinny at 135 than he was at 145, I think it's a great spot for Cub. But man, those are a lot of ifs. So I think I'm just going to be staying away from this one. But if Cub is one of the first 10 people on the scale and he doesn't look like shit, plus 182, I'd love to be holding that plus money ticket, because I think he could be very competitive on the feet against Jonathan the Dragon Martinez. And I think Cub's got a lot of power too. So, and power at 145 in comparison to power at 135. So we'll see. But right now, I guess the pick is Martinez. But look, if Cub makes weight and looks good on the scales, I'm changing my pick to Cub Swanson. The main event, though, we've made it all the way to the main event, you guys. We've got 65 of you hanging out in here. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for spending your Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy breaking down these fights. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you haven't joined the Patreon, go check out the Patreon for $5 a month. A great way to support me. Just like a couple of people earlier came in here and supported me huge with some donations. Much love to you guys. But let's break down this main event here, as we've got only one less fight. And this is a 5-round fight here. And we've got both of these ladies have never been scheduled for 5 rounds at the UFC level. So this is going to be interesting, man. So we've got, oh, and my guy Metalingus is in the room. Oi, what's up, dude? It's good to see you, man. And Bob's saying, but Martinez ain't got no goddamn chin, man. Yeah, dude, he's been dropped, a couple of times, but he's only been knocked out once at the UFC level in 10 fights. So we can't really just say that this guy's getting slept all the time and that he's incredibly chinny. Only one knockout loss in 10 fights at this level is pretty fucking impressive. But, it was against Davy Grant. And if you think of an opponent, that's what Cub Swanson's going to bring. Davy Grant's a brawler, just like Cub Swanson's going to take one to give one. And I think that, he could potentially, if the durability holds up at 135, cause a lot of problems there. So, dude, what did Nigel Lee say? Why is he asking if he's chopped liver? I didn't even see you, man. What is going on, Nigel Lee? You are not chopped liver. Nobody in this room is chopped liver. Your Uncle Weezy loves all of you equally, all right? So definitely not chopped liver. Thanks for hanging out, Nigel Lee. Always good to see you when you're a brother. But yeah, the main event, Grasso Araujo. Let's talk some measurables here, as we see that Grasso is 6 years younger and an inch taller, but it's going to be Vivi who's got a 2-inch reach advantage on the feet here. Both of these ladies are orthodox fighters. So Grasso, 3 more pro fights, about 35 more minutes in the pro cage. and almost 3 more years as a pro fighter. In addition to that, 2 more UFC level fights, 10 more minutes in the UFC cage. So, you like Grasso's experience advantage. You like her youth, a little bit of height there, but Vivi's got a 2-inch reach advantage here. In terms of finishing, Vivi's finished 1 of 5 wins. Grasso's finished 1 of 6 wins. So neither one of these ladies is really finishing at the UFC level. Of a 63% finish rate, though, for Vivi as a pro in comparison to a 36% finish rate for Grasso as a pro. So Vivi's probably the better finisher, but both of these ladies at the UFC level are really only finishing lower level competition as, Vivi finished Joanne Wood, and I mean, like, it's anybody that even learned how to do a rear naked choke could submit Joanne Wood. And Vivi got her her finish, which was by knockout early in her career. Where was it? Let me look here. I forget who she knocked out, but it might have been Bernardo, was it? The Bernardo win was by knockout back in 2019. That was her debut. And then wins over Alexis Davis, Montana De La Rosa, Mata Ferry, and Andrea Lee, with losses to Caitlin Chukagian and Jessica Ai. And the reason she lost to Ai was because Ai pushes a pace for a full 3 rounds, and we saw Vivi kind of gas out a little bit in that fight. But either way, this is going to be a good matchup here. When it comes to the striking, if we look at the metrics, you like Alexa Grasso having this 1.13 significant strike differential on the plus side, while we've got a negative 0.37 significant strike differential for Araujo, and she's throwing much less volume than her opponents, while Grasso is throwing more volume than her opponents. Now, Araujo has been a little bit more accurate and a little bit more powerful, but she's also been a little bit chinnier and a little bit less defensively responsible. Now, both are good defensive numbers here at 58% and 63% for Alexa Grasso, but I got to give Grasso the striking advantage here. She throws more volume. She lands more than she absorbs, while Vivi throws less volume and absorbs more than she lands, and doesn't really bring the kind of power that we have to worry about her sleeping like somebody like Grasso with one punch. As Grasso has been never knocked down in 9 UFC fights and 423 significant strikes absorbed. So the next knockdown that somebody lands on Grasso will be the first that she's absorbed. Now, when it comes to the grappling, Araujo, a much more willing wrestler here with 25 takedown attempts in only 7 fights, while we have 7 takedown attempts in 9 fights for Grasso. So Vivi's going to be the more willing wrestler here, and she's going to be the more likely gal to win minutes with her grappling here, because 21% control time for Vivi, only 6% control time allowed, 90% takedown defense for Vivi, while she's getting her takedowns at a 60% clip, which is excellent. So Alexa, much less willing to wrestle and really only showing a 60.53% takedown defense. However, this is very important. Alexa's out-controlling her opponents 20% to 12%, despite the fact that Alexa's opponents have attempted 38 takedowns and Alexa's only attempted 7. So Alexa has been very efficient. She gets takedowns, shot on her. She gets taken down, but she doesn't rest there. She doesn't allow you to win minutes there. She gets right back to her feet, and she starts striking again. And we can see a couple of examples in Alexa Grasso's career. Let's take a look at the Randa Marcos fight. She was out-controlled by Marcos by 109 seconds, but she got a win there by split decision. That is a fight, where we could see her losing minutes, in the grappling, but still landing a lot more significant strikes than her opponents. And, in the Herrig fight, in the Suarez fight, in the Esparza fight, we see 3 ladies. I mean, in particular, Esparza and Suarez, but Herrig as well, are good control time grapplers. They're good wrestlers. They win with their grappling. And you see in those 3 losses, she gets taken down 4 times, 2 times, and 4 times. In those 3 losses, she gives up 8 takedowns on 18 attempts, and she gets controlled for 431 seconds, for 101 seconds, and for 37 seconds. I just have the control time wrong on this one. So Alexa definitely has problems when her opponents do wrestle her. But Esparza, Suarez, those are ladies who are getting 30, 40%, maybe even 50% control time for on the aggregate. That is not what Vivi does. Vivi gets about 20%. She gets takedowns, but she doesn't really hold people down and win a ton of minutes there. In addition to that, you guys, we have to worry about this being a 5-round fight and Vivi kind of gassing out, because you can't push a grappling heavy game plan for 5 rounds if you can't even strike for 3. Now, we've seen that conditioning improve for Vivi here, but she's the older fighter here. Alexa's younger, she's fresher, and she's more experienced than Vivi. So unless Vivi can take this 20% control time and bump that number up to 33 or 40%, I don't think she's going to win enough minutes on the ground in order to make up for the lack of conditioning that she has in comparison to Grasso and the lack of minute-winning skills on the feet that Grasso has really seemed to master. That's her ability. That's how she's winning fights, is keeping them standing and outworking and outlanding her opponents on the feet. We've seen her do that against some really good strikers. Even like Fire Fist, Ji-Yeon Kim, that was a great fight, but she landed a lot more. Barber, she got a win in that fight, despite the fact that Barber out-controlled her, because she can win fights when her opponents out-control her, because her opponents have a hard time taking her down and holding her down. So I like Alexa Grasso to win this fight. I'm not laying minus 200 on her here, though. It's just too much to lay on a women's fight, in my opinion. But I do like her to win this one. And I'm going to pick her to win it by decision, even though I think she might be able to get a late knockout. If I could get Grasso around even money on FanDuel for that 4-5 decision prop, that will probably be something I look to bet, because I don't think Grasso finishes Vivi early. Vivi has been finished once in her career, but never at the UFC level. So it probably was a very long time ago that she got finished, and it might have been very early in her career. So, I think I'm going to pick Alexa Grasso to win by decision. If I could get 4-5 decision on Grasso on FanDuel at plus 100 or better, I think that's what I would bet here. But in the meantime, I'm staying away from this one. So we've went through all 12 of these fights. I always give you guys my tracked bets. So Grasso is minus 225 right now on the line. Araujo plus 190. Fight doesn't go, sitting at plus 165. The tracked bets this week, I only have one so far. I'm looking at maybe a quarter unit on Jordan Wright to win by first round knockout at plus 800. I think that's a nice wide line, and I think it sums up probably 90% of his win condition here. So that might be something I take a look at. I'm also taking a look at that Misha Cirkunov plus 170. I'm taking a look at if Cub Swanson makes weight, that plus 183 on the Cub Swanson money line. I'm taking a look at Askarov by decision here, or maybe by decision or submission, if I could get him at a good line there, because I don't think he's knocking out Royval. But that's about it. In terms of time props, there's not much I like. The probability parlay, which we gave out on MMAengine.com, on MMA Engine's YouTube channel on probability on Monday, was the Menifield under 1.5 parlayed with the Todorovic under 1.5. We're looking for violence in those spots. But as of right now, I've only pulled the trigger on that one unit on Vergara at plus 195. And I'm really high on Taira. I just think that Vergara's style doesn't have to be as talented and as technical as Taira in order to win minutes there. So very interesting fights. Great fan-friendly fights, but I'm going to keep it very light with my betting this week and keep my powder dry for next week at UFC 280. So that leaves us with only one more order of business, you guys, and it's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Now, I think I saw somebody in the comments already just say, Justin Villegas said, I like Victor Henry to give an ass shaving. I do too, Justin. I think that he's going to put it on Rafael Assuncao, but Henry not a great finisher overall. The other guy I was looking at was Dusko Todorovic for the ass shaving of the week, because if there's anybody that's out there going to go out there and get their ass shaved, it's my guy Jordan Wright, who's absorbing 4.76 knockdowns per 15 minutes. But you know what? There was one that I liked even better, you guys. And it is going to be the short notice fight. I'm looking for Joanderson Brito Tuberau to shave the ass of Lucas Alexander here. I just wasn't really impressed with what I saw from Lucas. He looks like a pretty generic, well-rounded fighter, but for a guy who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, to have his only 2 losses by submission, to have never won by submission, and then to have looked for submissions against guys that are 2-2 and not really even come close to landing them, I think that Brito will be more dangerous in the grappling. I think he'll be more likely to win minutes with the wrestling here if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet. And I think he's just the far more powerful striker here. Very dangerous early in fights to land a big shot. And when we're looking for an ass shaving of the week, we're looking for somebody to get kicked out, to get punted into the 3rd row, to wind up getting knocked out like Chepe Mariscal did at the hands of Joanderson Brito, wake up a minute later not knowing where they're at fighting the ref. That's an ass shaving. And that's why I am picking Joanderson Brito to shave the ass of Lucas Alexander this week. You guys, I appreciate all of you hanging out here with me today. I appreciate all 60 of you that are still hanging out live. The donations from my guys, really appreciated earlier in the show. I thank you. Thanks for hitting that thumbs up. Thanks for hitting the subscribe. Thanks for joining the Patreon. And thanks for watching. The only thing left to do is to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 62. I will see you guys tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show. I think that one will be hosted by my guy Lou Betya. We'll also have Monk there, and we'll also have Gordo Gambles there giving you our DFS takes. Tomorrow night right here on the Uncle Weezy YouTube channel, I will be doing Ask Weezy, 10:30 Central Time, after the Club and Sub podcast. And I want to make it a UFC 280 Ask Weezy, as I already have the stats for UFC 280 out to my Patreon members. So if you want to start looking at these lines before they move, let's do an Ask Weezy 10:30 Central Time tomorrow night. You guys can all come back here. I'll open up these stats so that you guys that aren't on the Patreon can kind of take a look at them while we break down these fights and see if we can find even more ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on UFC 280 in addition to UFC Vegas 62. God bless each and every one of you guys for hanging out, and I will see you tomorrow on Pub Sports and right back here on Uncle Weezy's channel. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you tomorrow. God bless.